Hi there. I am pushing across a comfort zone, and I have decided that I want to reach out. I'm I've been doing a lot of writing. I've been doing a lot of creating. I'm in the process of writing something called the Domestication and Disembodiment Gateway. And so I've been deeply immersed in. Prior to that, I was writing about trauma. So I've been deeply immersed in trauma, and then this whole collective experience of how we have been domesticated as a species and what does that mean to rewild in an integrative way. So I've been so deeply studying myself, and every single time I'm working on one of these 6 gateways that are part of this power reclamation map that I'm building for my business, it's working me to the bone. Like anything that's related to the topic, I am churning through my own shadow, my own fears, my own misunderstandings, and also the victories of my life. Like the way that I've seen how I have walked through so many storms, as all of us have. And what I'm realizing is that there's something arising right now with this virus that feels like an incredible opportunity. And it has to do with our relationship to being really these primal animals who are wired to protect and self-preserve. And, obviously we're living in a modern world, so many of us aren't feeling like we need to defend ourselves against, primal beasts or a lot of other things that might be chasing us in the woods, like the old days. But nonetheless, it's happening every single day, whether it's the thousands of emails that we can't get to, it's the pressures at home, it's financial issues, it's, painful relationship dynamics. We're in survival so often. And I feel like the virus is offering an opportunity. And so I've been sitting with like, what's actually getting stirred in me? And I've been, initially I was kind of, to be honest, I was like, well, yeah, it's a big deal, but no, I think I don't need to change anything about my life. I mean, I'll know when it's big enough where I need to do something. And then I read this incredible article, which I'll post on my timeline soon, which was just so data driven, and it was void of a lot of fear based communication. And it woke something up in me. And I realized, oh, yeah, it's my responsibility right now to actually be mindful about what I'm doing socially and to take a look at how I can help potentially contain any kind of speed or movement of this thing. So this thing, this crazy virus that seems like this invisible, well, it is, it's this invisible thing that's sort of taking us all on a ride. And I want to talk about what ride is it taking us on. I feel this need to have connection. I want to be in community, and I don't exactly know how to do it right now. I'm definitely practicing abstaining from a lot of socializing, and I have this desire to look at what is the gift that this is offering. And I notice for me, there's been an incredible amount of fear of isolation. And isolation is not, and that fear is not something new to me. I feel probably since I was a little girl, I have worked with this feeling of being exiled and not really feeling like I belong. And there is a feeling that when I get really activated, rather than seeking connection, I will seek isolation. I will seek time in nature by myself, or I know this is part of my core wound that I continue to work with, is I don't know how safe it is to actually seek support externally. And I certainly have come a long way in the last few decades. But I notice with the virus that I'm visiting old trauma. And it came up really strong the other day when I was in the grocery store and people were literally fighting over toilet paper and there was no more sanitizer. And I could feel the pulse of fear. And I got my things and I left, and I came home and I sat with this intense feeling in my heart and my body speeding up. And I realized there's this part of me that's so afraid of being left behind and isolated, which is a childhood feeling, like it's still in my system. So I think there's an opportunity here for every single one of us in whatever way speaks to us to really look at two things. One is, what is the fear that's getting ignited and how are we going to work with it? And the second is just to normalize, like, this is what we do as a primal animal, is we respond to fear with self-preservation, and some of us isolate and some of us reach for connection. And we're in a time right now where reaching for connection has to be really creative, because we can't be hugging and holding and being with everybody in the ways that we might normally. So I think what I wanted to bring today is just the sense of vulnerability that I've been feeling around, how can I do this differently? I write about this and I talk about this all the time with clients of, there is an opportunity in every moment for us to repattern ways of being that basically we're just repeating because it's familiar and our brain recognizes it and it just goes on autopilot, but it no longer serves us. So how do we rewire these, I call them superhighways or neural pathways, to bring in something that feels more aligned with who we are today? And I feel that this virus is giving us and asking, in a way, there's a impetus of, what can we do differently in our relationship to fear? And because my pattern has been so painful around isolating myself, and even when I was a child, it was the only way I knew how to survive. But then even later in life, I had a 6-year illness and I did the same thing. Like, doctors couldn't figure it out. I felt so ashamed that I was still sick and that I couldn't work anymore, that I literally sort of pulled myself out of society. And it ultimately was like the best thing that ever happened to me, because there's so much deconstruction about my beliefs and my ideas of myself that had to fall apart for me to find more freedom. But I don't want to do it again. I don't want to repeat the familiar, because it isn't going to serve me and isn't going to serve the people that I love. So I'm reaching out because I want to open a forum and I want to be in dialogue around, how are we working with our fear? I think there's nothing greater right now, and no, like, this opportunity of recognizing our fear patterns, totally normalizing them, because this is just going to happen. It's the way that we're wired. But then getting support and having some kind of even accountability, maybe, but getting support around empowering ourselves to do something different. So I am here sharing that I am committed to not isolate during this time. I'm also committed to honoring the movement of creating social distance, but I don't want to do this alone. I am so good at being self-reliant, and there's so many gifts that it has brought in my life, but I feel like it's dying. I can't and don't want to continue living as if I've got to do everything on my own, and that when trauma hits, I've got to isolate. So this is like the polar opposite of isolating. I'm not just reaching out to friends that I know, I'm reaching to anyone that this message speaks to. And I'm asking you to share with me your journey. Tell me about what it's like for you in this time, and how are you navigating your fear? And is there something different that you want to do? Is there a different move that you want to make when self-preservation comes up? So thanks for taking the time to listen here with me. And I welcome hearing about your journey too. I don't want to be in this alone.